Good afternoon, Commissioners. Welcome to our Thursday meeting of October 7th, 2021. I'd like to call it to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Sevis,
Present.
Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Freeman,
Here.
Commissioner Guyer,
Here.
Commissioner Hartman,
Here.
Commissioner Lavanino, Commissioner Sierra,
Here.
Commissioner Stark,
Here.
Commissioner Waterfield,
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Lavanino is absent, and in Supervisor Lavanino's absence, Supervisor Williams will be our voting member today.
Great, thank you. Can we please stand and take a moment to say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's right. The next item of business is the approval of the minutes from the September 2nd, 2021 meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Commissioner Hartman moves approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Sevis,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair Waterfield.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is our public comment, and now is the time for the members of the public to speak on any items that are not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak on items at this time?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, we have no request to speak under public comment.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. The next item of business is the approval of the consent calendar. Would any commissioners like to pull an item off the consent calendar? If not, Madam Mayor, are there any public comments?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, we have no request to speak.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Move approval.
You motion for approval,
Yes.
Mr. Sezif? Okay, do I have a second? Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Sevis,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair Waterfield.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is the change of organization, item number 1. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, changes of organization item number 1 is to consider approval of LAFCO application file number 21-03 for the 1020 La Vista Road annexation to Goleta Sanitary District, annexation number 382, and adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. Can we have the executive officer's report, please?
Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. This is our annexation request for 1020 La Vista Road. Battery go dead. Okay. Here we go. Okay, this is an application submitted by the landowners through petition. It is located on 0.90 acre lot on La Vista Road. This happens to be right across the street from the annexation that we approved last month. Similarly, it's an annexation into the Goleta Sanitation District for sewer service for an existing single-family residence. It is within the sphere of influence of the district. There's an overview shot of the area, which is difficult to see. A very far right-hand corner it is the La Vista Road area in that kind of surrounded white bubble.
Oh, there you go.
Zoomed in shot, you can see this is the parcel here, 0.90 acres, right adjacent to an area that has been annexed. The land use is residential and developed with a single family residence. There are no changes to that land use proposed. It is zoned in the county as 1E1. The district did provide a plan for service that outlines their capability to provide services to this parcel. That plan for service can be found in the attachment E. And this would extend sewer line southerly of La Vista Road about 50 linear feet and provide a lateral connection. The annexation is in a categorical exemption under Class 19. That is existing facilities and lots that are exempt. Parcel is uninhabited, meaning less than 12 registered voters live on the site. The district has consented and the property owners have consented. Therefore, the annexation can proceed without notice and hearing or an election of protest. The site is located in the area that does allow the district to be the best service provider into the future, and the proposal represents a reasonable and logical extension of the district services. With that, the recommendation is that the commission approve the proposal by resolution to following requirements. That concludes staff's presentation for this annexation.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate that. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak from the public?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, we have no request to speak from the public.
Are there any comments or questions from the commissioners? If not, that concludes the public comment part, and we can proceed with a motion.
Mr. Guyer, I'll move for approval and adoption of the resolution.
Do we have a second? Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Seves,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair
Aye.
Waterfield.
Aye.
Motion passes
Aye.
unanimously.
We hear you. We got your 3 ayes.
All three.
That's more like aye. The next item is change of organization is item number 2. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, changes of organization item number 2 is to consider approval of LAFCO application file number 21-04 for the 5965 and 5970 La Galita Road annexation to Galita Sanitary District, annexation number 383, and to adopt the adoption of a resolution.
And we'll have an executive officers to report, please.
Get that presentation up here. Bear with us 1 second.
That's right. Technical difficulties here for a moment, please.
There we go.
Great.
Okay, this is our second annexation into the Goleta Sanitation District for the La Goleta Road parcels. This too was also submitted by landowner petition. Both landowners filed for this application at 5965 and 5970 La Goleta Road. One of the parcels is just over an acre. It's within the city of Goleta. The other one is about just over a half of an acre, and it's in the unincorporated area of the county. Kind of straddles the La Goleta Road area. Again, this is to provide sanitary services for existing single-family residents. Each single family is on each lot. The area is within the district's sphere of influence. In this case, we're looking at an overview map on the far left side of the sanitation district is where La Goleta Road is. We'll zoom in here. These are the two parcels that straddle La Goleta Road, one in the city, one in the county. Again, the land uses are single-family residential. There's no changes being proposed to the land use. The county designated zone is RR5, and the city's zone is RS 43.6. Again, the district provided a plan for service is adequate to provide sewer service for both of these properties. That can be found in, again, exhibit attachment E. In this case, the sewer line is on North Fairview Avenue, would need to be extended approximately 500 linear feet. Again, this is a class 3 category exemption, which is the construction or conversion of small structures occur in the future. Both parcels together are less than 12 registered voters, so it's uninhabited. The district has consented and both property owners have consented, so we can proceed without a protest as well. And it's a logical area for the district to provide this service. It's a reasonable extension for the district to provide sanitation sewer services. So we recommend adoption of the resolution as well. Are there any questions?
I do have a question, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Yes, I have no problem with this application. I'm curious about the zoning. Is RR mean rural residential? Do you understand? And is the designation for the city portion of the property similarly rural residential? Or I'm just curious whether it's considered an urban area or a rural
residential is the zoning in the county. They're both single family. The city is single family, large lot.
Okay. Perhaps premature to speculate about whether these are covered by the new housing legislation or not. Doesn't matter for our purposes, I suppose.
Absolutely. Are there any other commissioners with any questions? If not, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone from the public wanting to speak on this item?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, I have no request to speak on this item.
Okay, I will close the public comment period now, and I will now entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Mr. Sedis, a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner.
Okay, I think that was Mr. Guyer that seconded it. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Sevis.
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman.
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman.
Aye.
Commissioner Stark.
Here. Aye.
Commissioner Williams. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Chair Waterfield.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is business item number 1. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, business item number 1 is to consider selection of a replacement vice chair for 2021.
Thank you. And will the executive officer please give us a report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, this item is brought forward to the commission's attention with the resignation of Commissioner Welk. Unfortunately, that left a vacancy also in our vice chairship. And so the commission can have a discussion and either elect to select a new vice chair, which would basically run with the remaining of the year with our 2 meetings left in this year. Or the commission could elect to use our procedures following the chair pro tem process. If the need were to arise that our chair is not present at a particular meeting, then the pro tem process allows the selection of a chair by virtue of those that are attending that meeting to effectively run and have the full powers of the chair for that meeting. So I leave that for the commission to discuss on how you'd like to proceed, and I'm here to answer any questions if they have any.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any commissioners that have any comments?
I do.
Mr. Sezzi?
To our exec, we are, or soon will be advertising for new public member, is that correct?
Correct. Next month, I'll be bringing a package forward to
Okay.
start that process.
And we have 2 meetings left, so I like the alternative as far as if the chair is not available, we can appoint from the members present until such time as the commission has an opportunity to select the new commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other commissioners that have any thoughts, comments? Okay, it looks like that maybe we'll just leave this position vacant for the time being and go with the pro tem selection should that need arise. Is there any public comment in regards to this item, Madam Clerk?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Okay. Yes, I do need a motion for,
I don't think so.
do I not?
Madam Chair, if you take no action, then I think it
Okay, perfect.
implements your requested direction.
Okay, no action taken, no motion needed. Great. The next item is business item number 2. Will the clerk please read that into the record?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, business item number 2 is to consider approval of section 218 agreement, final resolution and application agreement.
And can we have an executive director's report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This item finalizes the Section 218 agreement for Social Security coverage for your employees. Back in April, the commission adopted the initial kickoff resolution that started this process. It's a 6-step process. Steps 2 and 3. Step 1 was the initial resolution to start it. Step 2 and 3 were recently completed, and that is the election of that process that was completed by your executive officer. And this adoption is for step 4. So this finalizes our action at the LAFCO level to complete this. Steps 5 and 6 are to be completed by the Social Security Administration. So they will now evaluate our final application and give us the outcome of that news. So the recommendation is to adopt the resolution and sign that agreement and forward that to Social Security Administration.
Okay.
If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Are there any questions for Mr. Prater?
I'm cringing as I say this, but I do have a question. I noticed at the bottom of attachment A, the vote resolution, the Social Security majority vote resolution. It says that the services that are excluded is elected officials. And my curiosity ranges because the public member and the alternate public member of the commission, who I assume are intended to be excluded from this, are not in fact elected officials. And I want to know if this is a mere formality or if we should change elected officials to commissioners and alternate commissioners. And if so, whether that's appropriate according to the Social Security Administration.
Mr. Prater?
Yeah, so I believe that it's intended to include all commissioners in the presumption that they're elected positions. But you're right, the public member is not an elected member. But we are following the standard form from the Social Security Administration that would govern that. So the end result would be no commissioner would have Social Security withdrawn out of theirs.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Stark, I certainly think that's the intent. Perhaps if you approve it as is, Mr. Prater could inquire on that particular issue to see if the Social Security Administration is okay with that, or if we need to clarify who's covered and who's not.
Okay,
So this would, we would express the intention that the term elected officials applies to all commissioners, and if necessary, return in the unlikely event that the Social Security Administration wants us to clarify that.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Thank you.
okay. Are there any comments from other commissioners? Madam Clerk, do we have any comments from the public?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Okay, I will now entertain a motion to approve, and will be finalizing the Social Security by the commissioners part in adopting this resolution as is. Is there a motion? Do I have a motion?
Commissioner Hartman moves. Staff
Thank you.
recommend.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Sezif, seconds. Any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aceves,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair Waterfield.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is business item number 3. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, business item number 3 is to receive an oral staff report and set a public hearing for the December 9th, 2021, in order to consider accepting the service and sphere review for fire, law enforcement, safety and crime, and emergency medical services.
Great.
Yes, can we have our
Thank you.
executive
Thank you,
director's
Chair,
report, please?
Commissioners. Yeah, this is the item to announce the release of that municipal service review and sphere update. Now it is out on our website and available at our office. This is a 30-day public comment period. It has been, that period runs until November 8th. A notice has been placed in the paper for this item for the public to comment. And the commission is asked to set a public hearing date for December 9th, which aligns with our notice. The conclusions are summarized in the staff report. Thing I will say is that after reviewing, I've learned a lot about fire and police service in Santa Barbara County in writing this. The citizens of Santa Barbara County, they're protected by a great network of providers throughout. So no citizen within the county is left without service, which is a good thing to see. The service review evaluates 13 agencies, and we make recommendations in that. And so if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer any of those, but
Thank you. Are there any commissioners that have any questions? Are there any questions from the public, comments from the public?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Okay, thank you. I will now entertain a motion to set a public hearing for December 9th, 2021. Need approval.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Sezis? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Stark, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Seves,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair Waterfield.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is business item number 4. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, business item number 4 is that the commission A, receive a briefing on Assembly Bill 361, Revis, signed by the governor on September 16th, 2021, as urgency legislation concerning amendments to the Brown Act for use of teleconferencing at meetings of legislative bodies of local agencies during a proclaimed state of emergency. And to B, determine whether as a result of a proclaimed state of emergency, future commission meetings would present imminent risk to health and safety of attendees, and therefore such meetings should be conducted pursuant to requirements of Government Code Section 54953E2 for teleconferencing.
And can we get a report from our executive director, please?
I'm going to turn this report over to our legal counsel.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, as indicated in our notice, AB 361 was signed by the governor on September 16, 2021. It's an urgency legislation, meaning that it took effect immediately upon the signature by the governor. And broadly, what this bill does is it authorizes essentially more liberal teleconferencing at public meetings of local legislative bodies than are normally required under the Brown Act. For example, you don't have to post every single location of a teleconferencing participant, but rather, people can participate without making that location either, requiring meeting the posting requirements for the agenda, public access, and things of that nature. Now, the bill is essential because on September 30th, 2021, the executive order that had been signed by Governor Newsom in March of 2020, and that would be Executive Order N-29-20, that suspended portions of the Brown Act in order to allow for similar liberal teleconferencing participation, that expired. But I think what was in place here was there was a scheme to have the order expire on the 30th of September. And before that order expired, AB 361 took effect. So we're now operating under AB 361, or we can if we wish to. The legislation itself is codified in 54953E1 of the government code. And I'm on page 2 of the staff report. Lists 3 circumstances under which you can conduct a meeting via teleconferencing. Now, today we're actually operating under B, which since the executive order expired on September 30th, our authorization to meet today via teleconferencing is B, which is that the body is holding a meeting during a proclaimed state of emergency for the purpose of determining by majority vote of whether, as a result of the emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health and safety of the attendees. So that's the principal purpose of today's meeting on this issue. So we're here today to make that determination. And then you'll notice ground A up above that paragraph and ground C. Those are the 2 particular items you're asked to consider here today. First one is, and if either one of these grounds is met, then the commission can elect to proceed under the requirements of AB 361. So under A, the legislative body holds a meeting during a proclaimed state of emergency, and state or local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing. So that's a fairly liberal, or it's not a very rigorous requirement, but even a recommendation to promote social distancing is enough to elect to proceed under AB 361. So that's one ground. The second ground is if you make a determination, and this is a legislative body holds a meeting during an emergency and determines by majority vote that as a result of the emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health or safety of attendees. So that's more of a consideration of the evidence and not just a recommendation, but if you feel based on the evidence available to you, including the county health order that is attached to the staff report, that there is a risk to attendees, then that's sufficient to invoke AB 361. You may still personally decide to attend the meetings yourself, but it would allow the public and commissioners who are not comfortable coming to the meeting to elect to participate remotely. And I know there's at least concern with one commissioner about showing up at a meeting if it means coming out into public. So it's a legitimate concern. So
That's how we're conducting our meetings.
going forward, it
currently.
would be.
Yeah.
It would be permanent. There's a 30-day revisit that I'll get to in a second. Social distancing, most of the social distancing requirements at the state level, everyone I tracked down had been basically suspended, at least as a requirement as of June. And that also includes the Cal OSHA requirements were relaxed in June. But the requirement is actually fairly liberally stated in terms of if a local health official recommends measures to promote social distancing, then that's sufficient. What I found there on the state website is a quote from one of their COVID-19 briefings. And it says limiting, what the California Health Department basically encourages is limiting face-to-face contact with others is the best way to reduce the spread of coronavirus disease 2019. Physical distancing is also called social distancing, means keeping space between yourself and other people outside of your home. In addition to everyday steps to prevent COVID-19, keeping space between you and others is one of the best tools we have to avoid being exposed to the virus and slowing its spread locally and across the country and the world. So I think you could reasonably conclude that that is a recommendation from a state official to continue to practice social distancing. It's a recommendation. I think it's, probably case specific. There might be instances where you can't rigorously maintain social distance, but I think it's when possible, practice social distancing, and certainly allowing teleconferencing to commission meetings would support that goal. So that would be the first ground. Second ground, which is under, I said subsection C, but it's actually, I said subsection B in the staff report, it should be C above. You make a determination whether conducting its meetings in person would present an imminent risk to the health and safety of the attendees. To that end, I attached to the staff report the county's most recent directive, which is County Health Order number 21-10.4, dated September 5, 2001. It's attached to your staff report. And the order, of course, is primarily directed at requiring face coverings of all individuals while attending, quote, indoor public settings. However, it does in some instances make recommendations for social distancing in limited circumstances. That's in exemptions part 4. But the evidence cited in the order is also, I think, relevant to any commission determination of whether there is an imminent risk to the health and safety of attendees if an in-person meeting is required in order to participate in commission meetings. So if you look at the order, page 6, they quote the total number of COVID cases, transmission rates, damage to property, and the likelihood of exposures due to indoor activities. So that evidence, while it was used to invoke the indoor face mask requirement, it could also be used as a sufficient evidence for determination that there's a risk to attendees and it is better to allow teleconferencing. Also, I mean, this is, there is some concern, I think, although it's not officially on the record, but there's some concern that some commissioners may be uncomfortable themselves in their own health management issues of showing up at a public meeting. And so they may want to take advantage of that. Now, if you invoke it, the option to do meetings under 361, I think you could certainly consider doing both grounds. And if you find they both are legitimate, then I would recommend that. If you have problems with one ground versus the other, you should debate that. If you do invoke AB 361, the bill requires that every 30 days after you make a follow-up determination of whether the grounds for the determination is still in effect. So, so that would be, is there still an imminent risk in your opinion? And is there still a local or state recommendation to practice social distancing? So if that's, if you invoke that, then we would every 30 days put something on the agenda where you would revisit that issue. There's been quite a bit of discussion among lawyers. I've watched a couple of blogs on what if you can't meet the 30 days, because many small districts don't always meet every 30 days. And, but I checked our calendar, and if we stay on our regular meeting schedule through the end of the year, we're actually fine until January. So we would just do, if we continue this, the 30-day report. But the workaround, if we get into January and we are more than 30 days from the previous meeting where you reaffirm the need to participate through teleconferencing, workaround being discussed at the state level, and which I like, but I'm sort of reserving judgment until we have to make a decision, is we could simply reinitiate a meeting under B on page 2, which is you'd be holding a meeting during a proclaimed state of emergency for the purposes of determining whether future meetings need to be held via teleconferencing. So in other words, that first step that's letting us consider this issue today via teleconferencing, we could use that more than once. Well, I like that approach because the other option is to hold a special meeting just to find, to determine whether we should continue the 361 participation. Whereas if we invoke Part B on that, in that section, the follow-up meeting would work. Now, we don't have to really, paint ourselves into a corner or make a decision on this until January. We may have better clarification by January. But what I'm trying to avoid is the need to have special meetings to determine that we want to keep having special meetings. Yes, it would be, especially trying to do it around January. So anyway, before you today is a suggestion or recommendation that you adopt grounds, or 2 grounds, and both on paragraph A on page 2 and paragraph C.
Yeah. It seems to me that in line with the chair's comments that we make the provision for our meetings as broad as possible and give us as much flexibility as possible, which would indicate that we should approve the emergency meeting or meeting under the emergency circumstances under all possible grounds, which would include both A and C. Is that correct? I have a question for our council chair, and that is whether a masking requirement is completely separate from a social distancing requirement, or could be included as part of a social distancing requirement.
Madam Chair, Mr. Stark, I don't think we need to address indoor masking. That's currently under the county health order that I cited. And so they may be revisiting that in the future, but right now the county, and I think they just reaffirmed that this week, is still sticking with their requirement, not just a recommendation, to continue using face coverings during indoor meetings.
Not to be too hyper technical about it, but it would seem to me that if the health officer has good reason to require that people wear a mask indoors, that's evidence that there's a reason for us to be concerned with the public health emergency. Is sort of an additional evidence that we have the right to include remote testimony. I certainly think we ought to do it.
Are there any other comments comments from any of the commissioners?
I do have one
Mr.
question.
Sessions?
Instead of visiting this every 30 days, couldn't we do a resolution that it's to continue unless revoked?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Sevis, Madam Chair, Mr. Sevis, I don't think so because the statute's really clear and it says that the commission shall, the legislative body shall determine by a majority vote that the situation still exists, the circumstances still exist to support the determination. So I think they're really clear about the majority vote by the commission. If there was any play in the mandate of this language, I think maybe you could read, well, I think the vote by the majority is required before your next meeting, more than 30 days away. I'm not sure the legislature meant to hardwire in a 30-day drop dead period. So that maybe could be read as a directory rather than mandatory, but I think the workaround work is going to be effective. So we're covered through the end of the year with just doing our regular meeting schedule. I checked, no meeting is more than 30 days prior to the previous one. That's fortuitous. And then in January, before January, we'll have to have a solution for January. And we can report, well, this will be on the agenda in terms of the 30-day renewal for the next 3 months. So we can report on it. And if you have additional questions, we can, work through them then.
But more than likely, this would be on the consent calendar.
If it's, yes, that's the idea, unless the commission wants to get into it and we put it on consent.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, my microphone was off. Mr. Guyer?
Yeah, we addressed this last night at our special districts meeting. And so what we did was adopted by resolution, and then would just come back and reapprove the resolution every 30 days. So basically what we're going to do here is adopt the circumstances by motion and come back and by motion readopt them every 30 days. Is that correct?
That's correct, but it will show up as, of course, a minute order. And based on the comments made by the commission, we'll add, some justification to it. But it's, the statute does not require a resolution, so it does require the two determinations to be made. But this was very much a moving target as we were coming down the road. It was signed on September 16th, and there's been quite a bit of discussion about how to deal with the 30-day renewal requirement, and so it's been evolving. But what we also might consider doing is doing a more formal order when renew it, if and when we renew it in November.
Mr. Dillon, do you think that the state will notice that everyone's having this type of situation with their meetings and might do something different?
I think the state will notice because this has been a hot topic among the blogs that I've seen on special districts, and even a couple of county councils weighed in who advise special districts. Unfortunately, this provision is now in state law as opposed to in an executive order. So an executive order, of course, the governor can just revise the order. Revising the state law takes a little bit more process. So I don't know how easily they could fix, unless the governor wants to suspend part of the urgency law and make different requirements.
So are you asking for a motion of how we proceed on this, or do you want to wait until the 2-month period?
I recommend you make a motion
to
proceed with meetings as authorized under AB 361. I'll speak a little slower for Natasha. Based on the grounds that, and I'm going to paraphrase from paragraph A now, that the legislative body, and in the motion we'll put all the words in, but legislative commission held a meeting during a proclaimed state of emergency and has determined that state or local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing. I can give you the exact words later. And then the second grounds would be, and it'd be and, not or. So that'd be like 1 and a 2 are A and a B to the clerk, her discretion on how to. And then the second part would be the commission has determined by a majority vote that as a result of the emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health or safety of the attendees of commission meetings. And then we would note in particular the county health order. I'll say the number and give it.
Okay.
Tasha misses it, but the order is a county health order number 2021-10.4 dated September 5, 2021. And then if anybody wants to add additional justification or
Okay.
comments, that's welcome.
Do we have any comments from any other commissioners? If not, do we have any comments from the public?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Okay. I will now entertain a motion to approve by what Mr. Dillon had read into the record. Do I have a motion?
I'll move for adoption.
Mr. Guyer
And I will second.
and Mr. Sezes will second. Any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Seves,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair Waterfield.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is information item number 1. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, information item number 1 is to receive and file a status report from the Los Olivos CSD regarding the wastewater treatment project.
Mr. Prater.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chair. Commissioner, this is an informational item for a quarterly report from the Los Olivos Community Services District. In June of this year, the commission granted a 2-year time extension for the district to complete their Prop 218 assessment process. With that approval, you added a condition that they return with updates. This is their first update for that. The district has provided a letter that's attached to the report that outlines their progress. And they are both available. The president and their general manager are available to discuss the work and the schedule. And I will let them speak to the latest news that they held a special meeting on that will inform you that they are on schedule to meet their election process by the summer of 2022. So with that, that'll conclude mine. I'll turn it over to the district and their representatives.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any, Lisa and Robert?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, I do have Lisa Plummer on the line.
Ms. Plummer, go ahead.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Yes, and thanks, Mike. I thought you've got first of all, thank you again for your decision to vote us a 2-year extension on the timeline in order to hold a successful benefit assessment election. We are back with our first update. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have regarding the update, but as Mike alluded to, really wanted to share some good news that occurred between when we submitted this and today, and that is the green light on our state water recycling fund matching grant of up to $150,000 to begin moving forward with the preliminary design of the system. So we got that last Thursday. We held a special meeting on Monday to get our engineer and the preliminary design process underway. So those are the headlines. If you have specific questions, I'm here to answer them. So with that, I'll turn it back.
Thank you. Do we have any commissioners that have any questions for Mrs. Plummer? I don't hear any questions, Ms. Plummer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Madam Clerk.
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, we have no request to speak.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That concludes information item number 1. We will now go to closed session. We will recess and go to closed session. Madam Clerk, will you please read the closed session agenda?
Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, closed session is for public employee performance review, Government Code Section 54957B1 for LAFCO Executive Officer Mike Prater.
Thank you.
Pardon me. Chair Waterfield and members of the commission, we have no request to speak under this item.
And for the commissioners, they've all received a separate email invitation to the Zoom meeting that they should log
Okay.
into.
Okay, so we will join you momentarily as we check in and check out. Oh, great. Is everybody back? So we'll just go ahead and proceed now with the commissioners.
Madam Chair,
Yes. Oh, that's
report.
right. I apologize.
that's okay.
No.
A report from closed session. In closed session, the commission took no action that requires a report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now go to the commissioner and staff announcements. Do any of the commissioners have any announcements and requests for future agenda items? Seeing none, we'll go to the executive officer comments.
I do have a couple of comments. Thank you. As came up earlier today about the public member vacancy. So the plan here is to return with an item that will start that process to fill that public vacancy at our next meeting in November. And we'll outline what the process is, the notice that will be sent to the papers for interested parties to participate. And I'm developing a small form letter of application. So we'll have all of that in hand. That involves likely probably an appointment of an ad hoc committee to do an initial review in December. And then we'll follow up that with a full commission appointment in January.
Okay.
So that's hopefully what we're going to do there. The other couple announcements is if you haven't heard by now, our Commissioner Stark has been elected to the Cal LAFCO board.
Congratulations.
Public member for coastal.
Upset of the century. Upset.
I bet that was great though. Congratulations. Be careful what you ask for, right?
Exactly. He already has a meeting tomorrow. So.
Wow.
Welcome aboard. And then lastly, kind of on a sad note, I guess it came to my attention from Commissioner Stark that our longtime LAFCO Commissioner Bob Short passed away this past week.
Oh,
So I guess he found that in the paper. So with that, I would just recommend that maybe we adjourn this meeting in his honor for that. So with that,
absolutely. We will adjourn this meeting in Mr. Bob Short's absence. I'll take a moment. Thank you very much, Mr. Stark, for bringing that to our attention. We will now adjourn the meeting to November 4th, 2021, and that will be held in Santa Barbara. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.